Hello everybody, welcome back to the Whamcast. We've had a few weeks off with the October holidays. Hopefully everyone is back into swing for school and everything else. We have our guest on today, Mr Gollan, who was a former British Army officer. So this is relevant with Remembrance Day, other Remembrance Day things we're going to be doing this week. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Mr Gollan. I'm a new teacher here in the English department, so you might have seen me up in the corridor. I'm the one who sort of stands outside his room with my arms folded, trying not to look like a retired army officer, with varying degrees of success.
Some habits still stick around then. Well, yes, do you want to tell us about what you actually did in the army and where you...
Yeah, well, originally I'm from Dingwall. I was born and brought up in Dingwall. I went to Dingwall Academy and wanted to be an English teacher and went to the University of Aberdeen to study English with a view to becoming an English teacher. But when I was in the university, I kind of got a wee adventurous streak about me. I was doing a lot of climbing and mountaineering. And, I saw one of these army posters that said, come and join the army and you won't have to do anything apart from go climbing and parachuting and all that stuff. I thought, that sounds like great stuff for me. So I did that, and I thought, I'll do that for 3 years, and then I'll go and be an English teacher. And I ended up doing the full career. I did, over the full career, I did 20 years in the parachute regiment and beyond that in sort of the intelligence world. Went all over the world, finished up as a major.
A major?
Yeah, and then got kind of old and decrepit and got retired out on we get to the end of our time. And then I finally, after all that, became an English teacher.
So did you finish your degree first and then join?
I did, yeah, I did. I went to university and did my degree in English and graduated from that, and then went into the army straight after that.
What university did you actually go to?
Aberdeen, University of Aberdeen.
Yeah, you did say that. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty cool actually. Did you go in with a kind of? Did you go in as an officer with a university?
Yeah, if you join the army as a graduate, you have the opportunity to go straight in as an officer, and there's kind of pros and cons to that. You get a lot of responsibility early. You graduate, you go to the military academy, Sandhurst, the Royal Military Academy down in Berkshire. You do a 1-year course called the commissioning course, which is a kind of leadership, soldiering, basic training course. That's the one that like Prince Harry did, Prince William did, Mr Gollan did. And we finished that after a year, and then you go into your regiment as a second lieutenant, so you go straight in as an officer. And it's a lot of responsibility because you're still quite a young guy, and you've got 30 guys looking at you going, what do we do next? All of whom are much more experienced than you are. The parachute regiment's one of those ones where you've got guys in it who are actually some very capable guys in it. You've got soldiers in there who are degree qualified, who are very strong academically, very fit, very motivated people. And suddenly you've got 30 of these guys that you've got to look after. So yeah, it's quite a steep learning curve, but good skills for life.
Yeah, definitely.
What was your preparation before joining?
You mean before I went to the academy?
Before you went to Sandhurst, or even before the
probably
it would have been the Westbury selection.
Yeah, for the selection board, it was quite tricky because when I joined back, it was 1998. I went to Sandhurst, and I was Sandhurst intakes maybe got about 300 people in it. Off that 300, there was about 3 of us who hadn't been to private school. I was one of about 3 people who hadn't been to a private school. It was just that was the kind of demographic at the time. So that was a bit of a culture shock. So I found quite tricky getting into that mindset of, I come from a different background to a lot of these kids. Preparation-wise, a lot of fitness. Sandhurst's, it will also develop you to be fit as well. If you go there and you're not particularly fit, it can develop you. It'll be quite a hard road to travel. It's better if you go there fit, but you do get the opportunity to do that there. But academically, it's got quite a big academic component in the course as well. You do a lot of presentations, you learn how to speak in front of a group, all good skills that we develop here in the school as well. You do a lot of leadership training, as you would imagine, problem solving tasks, group team tasks. So yeah, it's a tricky one to prepare for. Physical fitness, and the rest you kind of learn when you go there.
Can you remember how you did on the command tasks? The command tasks.
I do, yes. The command tasks what we're talking about here is when you go through the selection board, You go around a series of stands, and on these stands are various different things, like oil drums and planks and ropes, and you'll be given the job of your team has to get across this imaginary river. And sometimes you're given the appointment of you're in charge of this task, and sometimes you ain't. They're just like, right, as a group, work it out yourself, how you're going to do this. And what they're looking at is, I mean, can you take charge of a task like that? But as important, they're asking, are you capable of taking your place in a team? Are you one of these guys who always has to be in charge, or can you let other people do it? And there's a balance to be struck between, I will take on this responsibility and I will take charge of this task, and also knowing when to step back and to let other people do their thing. And I would say of the people that didn't, that weren't successful, a lot of them failed on that. They couldn't step back. They thought they had to be doing everything all the time. And that doesn't work in a team environment. You got to accept that other people in your team have strengths. Some of them will be better in some areas than you are, and you've got to recognise that and say, right, you take charge of this. You're better than that at me. You can do this. That's quite an important skill to learn with regards to teamwork. Teamwork's not always about being the guy in charge. It's about letting other people do their thing as well.
Because this will be really, really beneficial for Alex as well, because Alex is looking to go
I
into
already
the military.
I already did the selection boards, and I remember
Yeah,
my
Through it with flying colours already, haven't you?
yeah, I passed the selection board during summer.
So you, me, Prince William, and Prince Harry.
Yeah,
What a quartet!
I know.
Went to
What
Westbury.
company William and Harry are in, actually, honestly. They must
Exactly.
feel very
Lucky
honoured.
them. Lucky them.
I know.
No, but I remember I remember talking to it was the same sort of experience. Everyone there was quite posh, is what to say. A bit posher than I was.
Yeah.
It's that kind of demographic, isn't it?
It's not. What is it? Would you say? It's not a weakness.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It isn't. You bring a lot to the table, coming from a different demographic. You always do. We have our own strengths. Those of the public school system versus the state school system is a big debate. You can have that. The pros and cons of both, but I think the whole thing about the military academy is everyone brings their own strengths and weaknesses to the table. We've all got them, and it's about what you can bring to a team, but also recognizing what others bring to a team as well.
But I remember the key thing was that not a single person in the entire board completed a single command task.
Yeah, I mean, completing the task's not the thing, is it?
Yeah,
it's how you go about doing it.
Although I was wondering, it was like if the other groups had managed to finish one, not a single one. They were quite tough. I remember that being quite one of the coolest things about it was the command tasks.
Yeah. You're taking me back there. Yes, I remember this.
So, parachute regiment. Did you go straight into that?
I did. Yeah, I did. I don't know if it's still the same now, but when I went through the military academy, you got sponsored by a particular regiment to do that year. You had to go under their wing. So I was kind of sponsored by them through the military academy, but you don't have to join them and they don't have to take you. So some people change their regiment, their arm or whatever during the military academy, but most people naturally go out of that and into the regiment that sponsored them through. I don't think it's not going by your reaction. I don't think it's the same these days.
I think you can get sponsored through, but I think the modern mindset is that you, and I'm using air quotations here, you choose your regiment about 2/3 in.
Yes. Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
But I was reading. Have you heard the book, Killing Time and Fighting Wars?
That's one I haven't read actually. No.
It's just what is it? It's like the young junior officers guide or something like that.
Oh, the Junior Officers Reading Club.
Yeah.
I remember that book.
Yeah, but I'm reading that right now.
Okay.
And he said that the system was you chose your regiment 2/3 in, but practically everyone knew all about their regiments.
The
interview process you have to go through.
And
for the parachute regiment, P Company? How did that
Yes, P Company, Pegasus Company. It's an extra piece of training you have to do because of the nature of the regiment. You have to qualify as a paratrooper. To do that, you have to go on a course called P Company, Pegasus Company, which is very physically demanding 3 weeks of training where you get put through a lot of physical tasks like a timed 2-mile run, a timed 30-mile run, a trainasium assault course, which is testing your ability to
sorry,
work
just
at height.
Can I interject? How did you find the Trinasium?
I didn't have a problem with it. You know,
I'm not afraid of heights, but it looks.
I wasn't great with heights, but the whole thing about it is that it's basically, for those listening, it's a huge climbing frame that's I think it's about 30 meters up above the ground. No safety nets or anything like that, and you go round it, and there's like a confidence jump. You have to jump across a gap. You have to go across various obstacles at height, and the whole thing about it is you go around, you get stopped at an obstacle, and someone will tell you go now, and when they say that, you have to do that obstacle. If you hesitate, the idea is you're going to hesitate at the door of the aircraft and so on and so forth. So a lot of people fail on that because they just don't have the confidence at height. That's a tricky one. Then you have to do milling, which is it's like boxing without any sort of boxing skill behind it. You get put against somebody roughly your own size and weight. They will give you 3 minutes, and you just both have to beat the living daylights out of each other. Which it's everyone wants to be paired against. You do P Company. It's across ranks. You're in there with private soldiers and lance corporals and young officers. Everyone wants to be paired up with the officer for milling because it's let's beat up the officer. And the idea is not that you defeat the guy in front of you, but that you stand your ground and you don't back off from it. So you do that. That's part of it. The whole thing lasts about 3 weeks. And then at the end of that, you pass-fail, and it's quite brutal. You're all sat in a big hall together. There's maybe about 100 of you. And they call your name out, you stand up, and they'll just say pass, or they'll say fail.
What was a pass or fail kind of ratio, actually? How many people failed
70% fail.
Yeah, because you were saying it was really difficult. It's quite a lot of times.
Yeah, it's about 70% fail.
It's very, very harsh.
Isn't there two types of para courses, isn't there?
There's the all-arms parachute
all arms,
course,
and then
there's P Company, which is the one you need to get into the regiment.
So P Company, I would have thought that would have had a high pass rate.
Well, when I went on it, see, a lot of people don't filter through to be allowed to do it. You know what I mean? There was a pre-screening course to get on it. So if you were completely unfit, you're never going to pass. You wouldn't even get on the course. So when I did it, you were pre-screened as likely to pass, and even then 70% didn't. And then you can do the all-arms parachute go, which is just testing if you can do a parachute jump out of an aircraft, as part of wider airborne forces.
So when was the first time you actually went parachuting?
It would have been straight after that. You do P Company, and then you go straight to the parachute course down at, where was it?
Colchester?
It wasn't when I did it. It was Bryce Norton, which is the big RAF base. Yeah. That's where the parachute course was done. And you got to do 12 jumps, including one out of a balloon, one at night, one over water. You had to do 12 to qualify as a parachute. But after P Company, that's easy. You're just stepping out the door of an aircraft.
If we're talking about inclusivity, 2 weeks ago maybe, the first woman ever passed.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, first woman soldier.
Yes.
That was it. Yeah.
Female soldiers have been serving with the airborne forces for a long time, but now they are going through P Company, which was traditionally not open to them. But as the army opens up and becomes a lot more inclusive, these opportunities are quite rightly becoming available.
Yeah, definitely. And whereabouts after you passed P Company and how you were in the regiment then? So where were you stationed actually?
I started off in Aldershot, which used to be the sort of the centre for airborne forces. It's now moved to Colchester. So I started off in Aldershot, and then where did I go? I was in Edinburgh for a bit. That was really good. And then after that was pretty much me finished with the UK. So I was all overseas. I was in all the places that you would imagine, the British Army, the Balkans, and Northern Ireland and the Middle East. I did some work in South America. I was in Africa. I did a lot of work in South Sudan, Sierra Leone, Sudan North. I kind of went everywhere. I just quite liked the idea of just always being on the move, so I was always away. So yeah, in that whole 20 years, I only really spent about 3 years of that in the UK, and the rest of the time I was away.
Yeah.
If I can ask, did you come from a military family?
I didn't actually know. Beyond the fact that my generation, our grandparents all served in national service during World War II. So my grandfather had done national service, but no, I wasn't from a military family. No, it's just something that sort of got into my head, and I thought I'll just get that out of my system for 3 years, and it took about 20 years to get out of my system.
Do you have any advice for? We'd like to make these podcasts kind of way for students to understand different career paths.
Ah, yeah.
Do you have any advice for anyone wanting to join the army as an officer or a soldier?
I think if you're interested in it, then definitely go for it. You learn a lot of wider life skills in the military. You learn, discipline. You learn how to organize yourself. You learn how to work as part of a bigger team, quite a diverse team in many aspects too. I would say, yeah, go for it. There's a lot of opportunities in the military. I mean, I got a master's degree in my time in the military. There's lots of educational paths you can choose in there. There's lots of different disciplines within the military that there's very technical disciplines. There are language courses. There's all sorts of things you can do. And yeah, certainly, when I left, it was time for me to leave, but it certainly stood me in good stead, and I learned a lot of really positive life skills from it. So anyone who's considering it, yeah, I would say go for it, definitely.
Yeah.
And what was your transition to being an English teacher? How long have you been a teacher for?
Relatively recent. I was still a soldier up until 28 months ago or something like that. And towards the last couple of years in the military, I was doing a lot of work with outward bound courses and adventurous training in the Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme, and I started doing a lot of work with young people and secondary school age people, and I thought that seems like a natural path to follow now. And I did my training course through the UHI, and did my placements in Dingwall Academy and Charleston Academy, and then came here. So I'm pretty relatively new as a teacher, and still learning as I go along. And probably the people in the class would tell you, yeah, I can tell he's new. But no, I've enjoyed it. It's a really good school, really good bunch of people. So yeah, it's all going well. I'm really enjoying myself.
Especially, as you said, it didn't decide to stick around at either Dingwall Academy or Charleston.
No. I didn't stick around there. I came here, so it's all worked out really well.
Aye. Yeah.
Do you want to ask the question?
Oh, yes. Well, we always have this kind of final finishing off kind of question.
Okay.
We always ask, so if you're stranded on a desert island, you can eat one food. You have to eat one food for the rest of your life.
Food.
What would it be? And you're not allowed to say pizza. We've already established that pizza's it's too much of a cop out.
It's too much of a generic answer.
Yeah, so you can't say pizza, but anything else is open to you.
That's interesting, isn't it? You can eat one food for the rest of your life. It's not allowed to be pizza.
As a soldier, you're going to look at this from a kind of like nutritional standpoint. Like,
It's gotta be
what
steak.
could I actually?
It's got to be steak, isn't it? Because it's kind of, it's good for you. You can cook it in a variety of different ways. Builds you up. It's got good protein in it. I would say steak.
What type of steak? Medium, rare?
A medium
rare?
steak. A medium sirloin steak.
Okay,
How I'm going to
that's
cook
good.
that on a desert island, I'm not quite sure. Where I'm going to get my unlimited supply of steaks.
Well,
from.
it just appears.
Sure.
It just appears.
It just appears as okay,
Yeah,
that's cool.
so you
Let's
just
go
have-
for steaks. I'll take a medium sirloin steak and eat that for the rest of my life and nothing
I'm
else.
pretty happy doing that as well, to be honest.
That would work for me.
I feel like that is a pretty good option. But yes, well, thank you very, very much for
you're more than
coming on. That's
welcome,
been
guys.
really, really interesting to hear you talk and stuff like
spot
that.
on. Really good podcast. Good questions. Nice to chat.
Well, I'm sure Alex knows more about this than me going into the military himself. So
And I wish you all the very best with that.
Thank you.
And if you need any advice from me, you just give me a shout, and that goes for anybody else too.
yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very much for coming on, and thank you very much everyone for listening.
Nice one, guys.